My name is Nicolaou. I'm an engineering manager in the Waterloo office. I was actually the first Google hire into that office. The office started with a small acquisition, so I was employee number 4 in Waterloo. And so I've seen it go from 4 people in 2006 to over 100 today. And I want to take a little bit of time to talk about the cool stuff we've done there. So before joining Google, I was running a little database startup that had to do with building a database engine using text search data structures instead of B-trees. And that was really cool because it had all kinds of different performance characteristics than a traditional database. So naturally, I assumed when I came to Google, I would work on search. But no, actually, I worked on completely different things. So we'll talk about the stuff that we've actually done in Waterloo. We recently moved. You can see here a picture of our new building. We're in the tannery in downtown Kitchener now. And this new space is really beautiful inside. It's all very old original flooring and old original construction combined with a very modern Google look and feel. And so the best picture I got of the new office was of the fastest method from getting from the 3rd floor to the 2nd floor, the slide. I would recommend that if you ever use the slide, you should keep your feet off of the bottom to maximize your speed and lie back. And it's very, very quick. And you can ignore the sign that says don't take your laptop down. It's really fine. So the new space that we're in is very exciting to us because we were kind of crammed into our old space as we got really big. And so now we have space in this new location to at least double and possibly triple the current population of Googlers working in Waterloo. And so that's really exciting. We also have some great new facilities like on-site cooking staff who make our meals for us, which is really great. And it's fun to be able to talk to the chef and complain to her about the lack of your favorite kind of food, and then it will likely appear the following week. So that's been very good. And we do a social TGIF every Friday where we just get together with beer and pizza and, well, not that different actually than what we have here. And treats to get together and play games and socialize. And then we do the company's TGIF on Monday. For people outside, maybe they don't know, every week there's a TGIF meeting in Mountain View where the founders stand up and talk about the significant events of the past week and answer questions and things like that. So it's a great way to connect with what's going on across the entire company. And we do a replay of that video on Mondays for the informational aspect, and we do the beer and party thing on Fridays for the social aspect. So it's been a great new facility, and we're having a lot of fun there. In terms of the areas that we work on in Waterloo, I'd say broadly speaking, there's 4 categories of work going on. We're working on ads, we're working on Chrome and ChromeOS, we're working on commerce, and we're working on mobile applications. So in each of these areas, we have a pretty significant team. Commerce is the newest one. We're going to be working on things like shopping.google.com and other shopping-related experiences. On the commerce side, we're really looking forward to a day where we can connect the sorts of searches that you do online with the actual shopping experience that you have offline. And we think there's a really big opportunity there for us, where today you might do a whole bunch of searches about a camera that you're going to buy and then go buy it, and there's no connection for the merchant to figure out whether their advertising got you to go to their shop or things like that. But you could imagine a world where because of some interaction that you had online, when you arrived at the store, somebody would come out to you and say, oh, hello, Alex, I know you're interested in the Nikon D70. I have yours here for you. And you're just ready to go ahead and purchase it with whatever discount comes with having found it through us. So we're trying to really connect the whole shopping experience together in a way that makes it significantly more fun to shop as a consumer, and also gives the advertisers some additional value by connecting the consumer to the vendor, to the search query that got in there. Now that's all speculative. I mean, we might or might not build something exactly like what I just described, but there's very interesting ideas you can think about scenarios like that could really change the face of how people shop in commerce. On the ad side, we've got a couple of big projects that are making a huge impact on a Google scale. Now, making impact at Google is kind of hard to do because things tend to be measured in the billions, and so having projects at our site which are measured in the billions is pretty significant to us. And so we do have an ads product called Conversion Optimizer, which essentially what it does is bid more for your ad at a time when the user is more likely to buy your product. And so that's really cool, and I have a whole slide about that later. And around Google, we like to share figures quite a bit, but for our purposes here, I'll just say this makes X billion dollars for Google every year, and so that's a very significant project to be coming out of our site. Also in ads, we work on Ad Exchange, which is like a stock exchange for advertising, and infrastructure projects that keep the whole system humming. And ads takes a lot of traffic, and so there's a lot of heavy-duty infrastructure work to be done there. On the ChromeOS side, I'm leading the ChromeOS team in Waterloo, and we're working on porting ChromeOS to new devices. And so there's lots of cool stuff that I can't talk about to this audience going on in that sphere. But let's just say that we see lots of new devices coming to market in the next 2 to 4 years, and we want ChromeOS to be a great platform for those devices. And then finally, in mobile apps, we've been building mobile apps for all platforms except Android in Waterloo. And so that always causes confusion. Whenever I say we're working on mobile in Waterloo, everybody always says, oh, what are you building for Android? Well, actually, we're working on all the rest of mobile in Waterloo. We do some Android development, but it's predominantly things like the version of Gmail that you get to when you go to gmail.com on your iPad or iPhone or things like that. And so we've got a very significant team working on those things as well. So I wanted to dive into 3 specific case studies of events that I've had a lot of fun with in Waterloo and how the people in Waterloo made a big difference to Google. So back when the iPad was launching, it turns out desktop Gmail just wasn't a fit. You went and fired it up. Your fingers were too fat for the targets. There was too much on the screen at once for this sort of tablet experience. It just didn't feel like a good way to deal with your mail on this device that was too big to be called a phone, but too small to be called a computer. We tried running the mobile version on it, and it just looked crazy wide. It was like, oh, honey, I blew up my cell phone. It didn't really feel like the right experience there either, with so much white space and so much wasted space. So on March 15th, we pitched a plan to build an iPad-optimized version of mobile Gmail. So for people who don't remember the launch dates around the launch of the Apple iPad, they were launching in the first week of April. So March 15th was relatively close to the anticipated launch date of the actual hardware that we were going to ship on. And so this was a pretty amazing effort by my team. We executed really fast, and we actually had it shipped in time for launch day, live in time for launch day. And that was really amazing. So even by Google standards, where things move very fast, going from nothing to a product launch in 3 weeks was incredible. And I managed to connect with somebody at Apple and convince them that although it was not supposed to be possible for me to buy devices on that day, that I should be allowed to buy devices because having Google stuff work well on their hardware was going to be important to them as well as to us. And so we managed to make some special arrangements. And Alex Kenberg, who's sitting in the second row here, and I got to drive down to Buffalo and pick it up on the madness of launch day and verify that there were no significant bugs. Actually, what I was expecting was we were going to hit significant bugs and we'd have to wake up the whole team back home to go fix them. But as it turned out, there were no significant bugs, which no doubt was due to our superior planning and execution and a little bit of luck. So we had a great time. It was a lot of fun, a very sort of quick reaction to a situation where we were sort of unprepared for this product launch and went to something that was pretty credible. And we got some great press, lots of people blogging about it and talking about it and asking why they couldn't use this interface on their other computers and only on the iPad. And so it was a very pleasing moment for the Waterloo mobile team putting this out there. The second one I want to talk about is already alluded to, is Conversion Optimizer. And Conversion Optimizer is sort of the canonical ads win at Google. I mean, how do you build a company around advertising in a way that you don't irritate people? This is, I think, very difficult to think about, right? I mean, I've always thought of ads as an irritant. I've always wondered how Google made money. And the way we make money, it turns out, is by providing ads that provide real value. And this is a great product in that vein. It's win-win-win for everybody. So the way it works is the advertiser will bid more for the ad if you're more likely to buy the product. And if you think about that, if you click on an ad and the result of that is that you actually buy the product on the other end of the ad, then you must have liked what you clicked on, or you wouldn't have paid for it, right? Either that or the advertiser really hoodwinked you once you clicked on the ad and saw their landing page. But the bottom line is we can assume that if you're spending your money on the advertiser's site after clicking on an ad, it's because you really got what you wanted, so much so that you were prepared to put your hard cash behind it. So you as a consumer are happy with that ad. It gave you what you wanted. You were able to buy what you needed. The advertiser is happy because what Conversion Optimizer basically gives them is for the same dollar amount of spending, they get more conversions. So they sell more product for the same amount of advertising budget. And so that's great for them. In some cases, the difference is dramatic. You can see some of the examples here. The first example, they boosted their conversion rates 433%. You know, that's a big difference, and essentially all you have to do is click a checkbox in the ads interface. That's what it entails, getting this set up. So that's a big difference for very low effort on the part of the advertiser. And in each of the cases that are on the display here, they saw similar big results. So it's pretty clear to me that the consumer wins because they buy what they want, and that the advertiser wins because they make more money for spending less money. And so it's perhaps not as obvious how Google wins. But at the end of the day, of course, Google wins by having the highest quality advertising product in the market. And what actually happens in our experience is that once an advertiser realizes that they can click this checkbox, spend the same amount of money and make more, they spend even more because now they're making more money and it's worth it to them to spend even more to get even more customers acquired. So it is really win-win-win for everybody. You know, the advertiser makes more and spends more, Google's customers are happier, and Google's product is stronger. So it's a fantastic contribution. And it's been really exciting to have this product, you know, led out of the engineering team in Waterloo. The team in this case is split between Waterloo and Mountain View, but the founding member of the team is in Waterloo, and a lot of the, you know, the fundamentals behind what makes it work are all Waterloo driven. So it's really been fun to be doing something that makes a difference to the bottom line of a company as big as ours from our office. Last thing I want to talk about is 20% impact. How many people have heard of 20% time? About 20% of you. So maybe I'll describe it briefly. So the notion of 20% is that every engineer can spend 20% of their time inventing whatever they want. And it sounds great, right? I actually asked every interviewer back in 2006 when I was interviewing to come to Google, you know, tell me, is 20% for reals? You know, I can just take a day off every week and do whatever I want. And they all assured me that it was. Well, it turns out, you know, it is a challenge to get good results out of your 20% time. It's easy enough to take a day a week to go fix a bug. But then once you get within Google and you're trying to figure out how to make an impact on a Google scale, it's more challenging. And we've had some things come out of our 20% time in Waterloo that I'm pretty proud of, and I wanted to highlight 3 specific ones here. One of them was a couple of engineers went off and started experimenting with this augmented reality idea where you could hold up your cell phone and look through the viewfinder of your camera and have metadata marked up on the live view of the things that were in your camera's viewfinder based on information that was inside the Google Maps database. So this was really neat because you could, you know, hold it up and point it at a landmark and get told what it was, or point it at a store and get told what that was. And so this was a really successful 20% demo. We flew those engineers here to Mountain View to demonstrate it to a bunch of people and wound up getting that added as a feature to the Google Goggles product for its launch. And so that was really exciting, seeing something go from, you know, a prototype concept that a couple of engineers had done in a week or two in our office to something that launched as a live feature and a finished product. My entire project is actually the result of 20% time. So basically I took a few engineers and said, look, just disappear for a couple of weeks and go build this demo for me, and then I will pitch it to the relevant VPs and get a project started. And so we went from a 20% sprint that we did, I guess last November now, so a year and 3 months ago or so, to the point now where we have a 17-person team working on this project, building ChromeOS for new devices, all based around that demo. And so that was really great to see how we could take an idea, a concept, translate it into a prototype, and then translate it into a full-on project at Google. And then finally, we've also had a lot of fun over the years building mobile apps and frameworks that show how much you can do on mobile browsers. So I think this is still something that has relatively low penetration in the marketplace's consciousness today, but if you go into airplane mode on your iPhone and go to the gmail.com website, it can actually load up Gmail and show you your email even though you're offline. You can compose an email and star a message and read messages that you've read recently, and that all works even though you're in a web browser and you have no connectivity. So this is the kind of, wow, you can do that in a browser effect that we're trying to push out there and get the development community aware of. And we've had a lot of fun building frameworks that demonstrate this, spending our 20% time writing technical blog posts. We've been solicited to go write a book about it, stuff like that. And it's been great to see this sort of technology leadership that we've done on the mobile side getting such terrific press. So it's been lots of fun. these are just a sampling of sort of the biggest projects that I think have made a difference. And so I wanted to share them with you. So then for the finish, I just wanted to say kind of what's the overall goal of the site. I'm one of the managers in the site, and my goal as a manager of the Waterloo site is to make sure that we have projects that fit together in such a way that the individual's work can be double or triple counted. So what do I mean by that? I want to have projects where there's obvious interconnects between them. So we're working on commerce, we're working on mobile. It's natural that we should do some things in the mobile commerce intersection. We're working on ads and we're working on ChromeOS. It's natural that we should look at something that goes between ads and ChromeOS. And I think it's really valuable to find these interconnections. And one of the great things about being in a small site with a small management team who's looking for things like that is that we can find ways to make sure that the work that the individual teams do has really high impact in the marketplace as a whole, but also high impact within Google by satisfying the needs of multiple stakeholders who aren't necessarily all always looking out for each other. So we're looking for those interconnects and finding ways that we can build products that are at the intersection of various different efforts within Google and take advantages of the strengths of our teams. So that's been a lot of fun doing that as well. So in terms of stuff I have to say, that's about it, but I wanted to leave a good chunk of time at the end of my talk for Q&A, and I have just shy of 10 minutes here for questions, so don't be shy. Raise your hand and have at me. Yes? Oh, that sounds bad. I'll help you debug that afterwards. It should work. That's a bit strange that that doesn't work for you, but no, it should work whether you were in it or not. It should launch from nothing in airplane mode. I'll be happy to look at that afterwards and try to figure out why it's not working for you. The person next to you also had a question.
So what do you see as the difference between ChromeOS and Android? And when will they converge?
The question is, what do I see as the difference between ChromeOS and Android, and when will they converge? I think the fundamental difference between ChromeOS and Android is that ChromeOS has a less is more philosophy of providing you with just a browser, which is your window into the internet, in which you do everything. And Android is more of an app-based philosophy, more similar to the iPhone or other devices where, you know, the expected use case is that you're installing applications to do what you want. I think it's completely unclear which of these models is going to win out. I'm working on ChromeOS. I must have a bias, right? But let's say that Google as a company is big enough to be able to invest in multiple potentially contradictory approaches and be there on the winning side, whichever side wins, right? So, I mean, right now, I think we're going to see huge success in Android this year. They're going to sell an unbelievable quantity of devices. We're going to see a huge upsurge in the development of apps for Android, and so I think 2011 will be the year of Android. You know, long term, I have an opinion about the web's longevity and its ability to win. And so I think that that's also worth investing in. I could be wrong, and that's okay. We can do both.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey. So similar question. Yes. So, what do you see the future of frameworks such as PhoneGap being, things that take these HTML5 mobile apps and actually integrate them with the phone's hardware? Do you see that as the path that mobile development is going to be going down in general?
Okay, so the question is about PhoneGap, which is a library that lets you write a JavaScript HTML app and embed it inside an iPhone or an Android application and then access the device's native functionality through your JavaScript APIs that ultimately call through to the C++ layer embedded in PhoneGap. And the question is, how do I see that? Is that the future of mobile development? Actually, the way I see those technologies is as transition technologies. I think that eventually web standards will move forwards and we'll see people writing to more and more advanced APIs that are available directly within the browser. But these transition technologies will give us environments where they'll provide those APIs and we'll be able to see what's popular and what kind of apps get written that will ultimately drive the standardization of similar APIs for the browser. So I think these things provide a very useful interim environment where people can do stuff without going through the really, really slow standardization process in order to get their apps written. But ultimately, I think that the real transition here is for W3C or what working group to take the ideas that are in those apps and make them actual web standards. Love it. There's motivation. People are asking questions, getting T-shirts. Yes, sir.
Yeah, wondering what kind of relationship, if any, you have
of Waterloo? Do you have faculty over there that sometimes take sabbatical and work at Google? Do you have faculty and grad students come and give talks at Google? People at Google go to the university and give talks?
So the question is, what kind of relationship do we have with the University of Waterloo? And the answer is, we really need more people to help deepen that relationship, but we do a bunch of things there. So first of all, Google as a whole has a grants program that we give small grants to students who are doing interesting research. And so we've certainly gone multiple times to the university to get the profs to pitch grant applications. And then I've helped the university match that money, because there's usually matching money from industry and NSERC around a grant. So we can start with a small $25,000 grant for a master's or PhD student, and then match it 2 or 3 times to wind up with $75,000 or $100,000, and that becomes a pretty significant research project. So we've done that a number of times, and that's been fun. We've invited students who have done those projects to then come and give a talk about their work after it's finished, a year and a half after the fact, at our site. We've gone occasionally to see talks that are at the university, or to try to get interest amongst the grad students in working at Google and so on. In terms of visiting professorships, right now we do that by connecting profs with the research team here in Mountain View. The Waterloo office is an engineering office. There's not a research arm there. And so for people who want to come on sort of a sabbatical and work at Google, we try to arrange it that they can come here where the research team is. And that's the extent of the relationship. I see my companion wants to say something more on this point.
Alex, we did have a professor come in for a sabbatical last fall.
Oh, I missed that.
To work with ads.
He worked with ads. Oh, those ads people hit their professor well. Okay, so apparently we've also had a professor in the sabbatical with ads, but I wasn't aware of that case. But that's the extent of the relationship so far. It would be great to do even more there, have more talks back and forth and so on. And that's basically limited by the bandwidth of people who volunteer to organize those things. Doesn't he get a shirt? He does. Okay, over here on the right.
What's the expected growth for your office? Which technologies do you think is going to grow? And how are you compared to the salaries in the Valley?
Okay, 3 questions. What's expected growth through the office? What are the important technologies, in my opinion? I assume I can't presume to speak for Google. And what is the salaries like? So expected growth for the office is basically as fast as we can hire. So we need a lot more people for commerce. We need to double my team on ChromeOS. We need to do a significant expansion in ads. And we need to add more people to the various mobile things that we're working on. So in all dimensions, we're trying to grow the office. And I suspect that we'll start to hit the wall in Waterloo once we break 200 people. It will start to get hard to hire as fast as we want to. But we're going to keep going indefinitely. So the growth is definitely there. In terms of what technologies are important, it's a bit hard to step away from my biases here. So I think web is going to be very, very important. Continued investment in both Chrome as a platform, as well as JavaScript as a language, and web development platforms. Obviously, to Google as a whole, the Android platform is very relevant. In terms of the things that prospective applicants would need to know to be successful at Google, knowing at least 2 of the big 3 languages well is definitely an asset. And the big 3 languages at Google are Java, C++, and Python. Oh, and JavaScript, I guess, too. Okay, well, 2 of the 4 languages would be an asset in terms of language knowledge. The company as a whole is doing so many things that it's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to be an oracle and say what will truly come out to be important in the future. And there was a 3rd question that I've now forgotten. Salaries. Oh. I guess the best thing I can say about salaries is that we had somebody who transferred from Mountain View to Waterloo because he couldn't afford a house in Mountain View, and he got to Waterloo and he bought 2 of them. So I think that the standard of living in Waterloo is significantly higher than in the Valley on a monetary versus value basis. I mean, certainly there are some things that are more expensive in Canada than in the U.S., but on balance, it's easier to live high in Waterloo than it is here, and the salaries are very competitive. Yes, sir.
My question is, do you plan to have the Chrome browser moving to Android, or is it coming?
Oh, so this is an awkward one. The question is, do we plan to have the Chrome browser ported to Android? Is that coming? And Unfortunately, my answer is I know the answer to your question, but I don't know if I'm allowed to tell it to you. So I will try to look that up while the next speaker is speaking and come back and answer it if there is public knowledge on this point. Do we have a need for parallel computing? So Google as a whole certainly has a need for parallel computing. Within the projects that we're doing in Waterloo specifically, the places where we do the most parallel computing are in ads, where there are machine learning systems and also systems that process huge quantities of simultaneous queries from end users at the same time. So we do that. The kind of parallelism that we do at Google is mostly coarse-grained cluster-type computing, as opposed to single programs that are highly parallelized. That doesn't mean that there aren't places where single highly parallelized programs are important too, but the bias within Google is definitely towards cluster-type computing. Right behind you. Yes, you.
Does Google have a plan to establish an office in Toronto? If so, when would that be?
The question is, does Google have a plan to establish an office in Toronto? And if so, when would that be? There is an office in Toronto. It's a sales office, so no, I was going to say no people work there. So no engineers. So no engineers work there. We do run 3 shuttles from the Toronto area to Waterloo. So right now, if you were planning on living in Toronto, you could ride one of the shuttles. And the way the shuttles work is they're van pools. So a different Googler drives the shuttle each day, and the other people can use the wireless that's on board the van to do work or play games on their way to the office each day, not have to worry about driving. I can't speculate as to whether we would ever open an office in Toronto. Other than say that we are always expanding, and there is already a site there, it just doesn't do engineering work. It is also possible on an occasional basis to work in the Toronto office. So if you were based in Toronto and for some reason couldn't come into Waterloo, say perhaps due to inclement weather, you could go to the Toronto office instead, and they would house you temporarily for a day. On the edge here?
Do you plan to hire project managers as well, or it's purely development that you're looking at right now?
The question is, do we plan to hire project managers, or is it purely development? So at Google, we don't hire too many project managers. We do hire a fair number of product managers. The subtle distinction there. So we don't currently have a plan for a project manager in Waterloo. As we grow, we will eventually need that role, but it's a very uncommon role at Google as a whole. Product managers, on the other hand, we are constantly hiring, and so we're always looking for people who are interested in product management. Yes?
How much synergy is there happening within, like with Waterloo Google versus the Google office in Mountain View? Or is it all the synergy happens within the Waterloo office?
So the question is, how much synergy is there between our office and other sites? And so it depends on the team. So on the ads team, most of those teams are split between Waterloo and New York or Waterloo and Mountain View. And so although we make a significant contribution from Waterloo, almost every ads team has engineers at one of the other sites. On the mobile projects, most of those teams are self-contained and completely autonomous. They basically execute and they coordinate with teams here in Mountain View, but they're more isolated in terms of they have more autonomy from the rest of the company. In terms of ChromeOS, which is the team I'm running, it's a small piece of a much bigger team that's based here in Mountain View. And so we have autonomy and control over certain sections of Chrome and ChromeOS, but there's other sections where we need to visit here to coordinate. And then in terms of commerce, we own primarily the mobile commerce piece of commerce, and the other parts of commerce are being done at other sites. So there's always some interaction between the sites. Now, specifically in terms of the word synergy, I described how we choose our products to try to create connections across the different groups, and that's a within Waterloo effort. That's something we do in order to try to make sure that the engineers inside our office are getting more impact per engineer than you would typically see at other Google sites. And eventually, like all good ideas, this will get copied by other sites within Google, but so far so good. I believe we're in the lead. So, in terms of creating the cross-team connections, that's an idea that seems to be unique to our office at the moment.
Yeah, I was just interested about the ads and commerce the Waterloo side, and I'm interested in whether you're hiring people who are in media for the commerce, marketing, for the ads. I'm just interested about those type of hires for the Waterloo side.
So the question is, are we hiring people who are in media for either ads or commerce in the Waterloo site? And the answer is no, we're not currently hiring for those roles at our site. That doesn't mean you shouldn't engage with Google. I'm sure we're hiring for those roles elsewhere. And my tip would be, if you get to a point where you have an offer from Google and it's for a site that you don't wish to be at, that's the perfect time to approach your recruiter and say, I'd really rather work somewhere else. No guarantees about how that would go, but that's the time to have that conversation. Yes, sir.
Hi, someone gave me a T-shirt, so I guess I owe you a question.
Now that's the kind of good conscience I like to see in people.
So, any extra points for being a Waterloo alumnus and an ex-Googler?
Not so far as I'm aware, although we do have a large number of Waterloo alums in Waterloo, and being an ex-Googler would mean that you're a known quantity, which would presumably make it much easier to bring you on board. Yeah, well, we should talk afterwards. I'd be interested to hear your story. I should probably hand off to my colleague from Montreal, who's going to tell you all about how you should really want to be in Montreal and not in Waterloo.
Hi, my name is Nav. I'm a software developer in the Montreal office. I work in the security team, specifically on the anti-malware team. Is this your offline stuff acting up? On the anti-malware team, we provide you those warnings in Firefox, Safari, Chrome, Facebook, Twitter, a bunch of other sites that use our safe browsing service to prevent you from going to sites that may harm your computer, drive-by downloads or phishing. So Alex is right. I'm here to convince you to come to Montreal. Let's see. So this is how my talk is structured. I'm going to talk a little bit about me. I'm a little unique in the office. I started my career at Google in Mountain View, actually. I started in this office and a different career path as a site reliability engineer, just more like a system administrator, like a super system administrator. And I worked in San Francisco. I came from Victoria to San Fran. I stayed here for a couple of years, and then I transferred to the Montreal office. And I changed ladders and kind of career paths as well. So I've been in Montreal for about half and in Mountain View for about half. So I'll talk about my experiences there. I'll talk about the office, the projects we have in the office, and the kind of dynamic that we have. And then I'll sell you on the city if you don't know much about it already. My first trip to Montreal was actually to check out the office. So I'm not like a ex-Montrealer. I'm from the West. I'm from the Kootenays in BC. So I really had no reason to be there. So here are the numbers. Alex talked a little bit about the guy who went and bought 2 houses in Waterloo. And it's a similar kind of story in Montreal. I was paying about $1,500 for half a 2-bedroom. I had 1 bedroom in Pack Heights and in the Mission. And then I moved to Montreal, and that's about my mortgage for a 2-bedroom place on my own. And that's a huge difference. And my commuting time, I lived in San Fran. I think a bunch of you live in Mountain View, so it's probably a little different story for commuting. But my life changed as a result of buying power as well as commuting time. So here's a little bit more about the experience, differences in the office. When I first went to Montreal, I was a little bit shocked. It felt like maybe I wasn't used to that. I was used to like a dozen cafes and like scooters and stuff everywhere. And now we're like on 1 floor and 1 cafe and only 1 massage person. It was tough. I had But anyway, I started appreciating it. Now when I come to like larger offices like this, I feel like I'm one small kind of person amongst thousands of people. And I don't know everybody's name and I don't know their story. So, I enjoy that in the small environment. It's a startup environment without the startup hours. The majority of the people in our office have families, and they do the typical like 9 to 5 kind of deal. And I end up doing the same kind of thing too because I like working with them. But there's some people who come in at like 10, 11, 12, or 1, or 2. Or Pierre, yes, there's some people who come in, and that's totally fine too. So you have the same flexibility in your schedule. What this 9 to 5 thing means is that, and without the commute time, means you can actually like have a life outside of work, which is something I didn't quite have when I was living the life in the valley. So that impacted my social life, and it just kind of impacted like who I am. And I'm really happy with the person I am today, with the move that I made to Montreal. That alone should be enough for you to go. But you know, our office, we participate in each other's lives, which is kind of an interesting thing. I mean, I've gone to like I'm 20 when I joined the office. I was like 25 or 26, and there's a colleague on my team who's like in his early 40s. And, I'm over at his house, like helping him build his fence. And he'll come to my house parties and stuff. And we've done road trips to Oktoberfest, like unofficial, like not work-related road trips and house parties and things like that. So it is like I said earlier, the startup environment, which is really cool. Startup environment, but we don't work those hours and we have money to play with. All right. I can talk more about like the transition and stuff afterwards if you guys want to. I have like interesting stories about all that I probably shouldn't say in front of everybody. And here's the office. We're located in a central location. If you know Montreal, it's on the corner of McGill and St. Catherine. We're on top of La Trabasseur, which is a microbrewery, brew pub, and just 2 minutes down from McGill University. So it's a prominent location, the heart of downtown, walking distance from everything. I mentioned it's on top of a brew pub. We're trying still, I guess, to try to get like a keg, kind of like a tap, put it right in our office. But we're pretty close. And actually, if you've never been to Montreal, there's parts of the city that are kind of connected through underground. So you can there's some condos you can actually live in, which are also connected to the subway system. So you can, in some places, get to work without ever going outside. And from our office, we can like get to the gym, the movie theater, dozens of Tim Hortons, without ever going outside. If I want a haircut, it's like down the stairs, haircut. Get my pen, it's very cool. Very good location is what I'm trying to say. I'll talk a little bit about the projects now. When I joined a couple years ago, we had less than 20 people, maybe like 17, and we're kind of on a hiring frenzy now. So we've brought up to 25 or 26 as of this week, and we're aggressively hiring. So in the same boat as Alex, like we're not going to turn down talented engineers at this point. If you're smart and you're a good fit for Montreal, we will take you. Right now, we have 2 focus areas, Chrome and security. And I'll talk a little bit more about those in a couple slides. And we're looking at a 3rd focus area. I honestly don't know what that 3rd focus area is going to be, but it's in the works. Here's a Chrome team. This is on, I originally said this was No Pants Day, but this is Pajama Day. The No Pants Day pictures look quite different. No pants, you still wear like boxers and stuff. We did No Pants Day, and we had like a candidate come in for an interview, and we did not say anything to him. Like the guy who met him at the door was like our most senior engineer, and just showed up. And I think he was wearing, sometimes we do like dress up No Pants Day, which means like a suit top, but like boxers. And I think it was like a dress up No Pants Day when he came and met him at the door. And our receptionist was also like following the vibe and everything. And it was a very fun day. So we do these kind of things. In a small office, we can get people come up with these crazy ideas, and it's like, all right, next week we're doing No Pants Day or Pajama Day. And I think we've done a few no pants. We've done a couple one dress up no pants, Pajama Day, and I'll dress up for Halloween and anything you can kind of imagine. You need a reason to dress up, we do it. These are the teams. These are some of the sub-teams working on Chrome. GPU acceleration, Chrome UI kind of things. The performance stuff is interesting. I can't speak too much about the details of it, but they're like, at the end of the day, they're trying to make Chrome faster for everybody, which is a good thing, which has a huge impact. And Chrome Web Store. In Web Store, they're looking at doing interesting things like recommending extensions and apps for Chrome users as well as ChromeOS people, and kind of generalizing this recommendation strategy in other products throughout Google, using interesting tools like machine learning and whatnot. Chrome Frame is a project that, I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It allows you to run Chrome inside of Internet Explorer, right? Yes, not the other way around. It's Chrome inside of Internet Explorer. So you can do things like have an HTML5 experience inside of IE6, which sounds crazy, but it's possible. I think YouTube, by default, I think they, as of like this year or last year, they stopped supporting IE6, and the only way if you want IE6 YouTube is to use Chrome Frame, and sites can get speed up by using Chrome Frame. And there's an open source project that was released by some Googlers in Montreal that shows you how you may use like this Chrome Frame infrastructure, I guess, to run Chrome extensions in Internet Explorer, which is very interesting as well. And then there's Pajama Day. Security. This is a day we did. We rented sumo suits and wrestled. We come up with the crazy ideas for tournaments. We're all into tournaments. So we had a sumo tournament. We have an annual foosball tournament. What other kind of tournaments do we have? Do you know? Lost track. So yes, we're primarily working on Antimalware, which I described at the beginning of the talk, and we've spun up a new project for Chrome extensions. So this is interesting. It was like kind of an idea that was, I guess I put it forward and kind of got buy-in from other people on the team as well as the Chrome extension people here, and it's kind of created a new project. So we're hiring new engineers for that, and it's a new project kind of that wasn't originally there that we kind of created on our own, which is very interesting. And our team is known for Whiskey Wednesdays and Thirsty Thursdays and things like that. So if you come to my desk, you'll see like 5 or 6 bottles of like whiskey and scotch and port and things like that. So we're like the party office. If you're in security, it's kind of like mandatory. Not strictly, yeah. All right, this is a little bit about Montreal. I'm not going to read the numbers, but I guess in general, we get these questions like, do you need to speak French to live in Montreal? Can you get by with English? Or sometimes the opposite, can I get by without English? As long as you know French, I guess, in that case. Yeah, you need to know one of the languages, but you'll be good either way. I went without knowing French, and I still don't know French. I know enough to order beers, coffees, ask for directions, and comment on the weather, and things like that. So I'm totally fine. Most people are actually bilingual. Well, I guess half of people are bilingual. The university is just up the block, like I said. It's a large university town. We do interact with the university, at least we've started to in the last year. We have, recently we've had people come and give talks about projects that they're working on. They're kind of interested in technology. And we've visited the campus as well, like performing like mock interviews, like helping people get ready for their careers and things like that. This is interesting. That everybody in our office like uses public transit to get to the office. It's a very public transit friendly city. And like I said earlier, it's very affordable real estate. And education, we're talking earlier, is actually, it's cheap. It's more affordable in Canada in general, and in Quebec, it's especially affordable for Quebec residents. There are people in Montreal that are taking classes at the university, and they took off in the middle of the day, go for a class, and then come back. Culture and sports, the city is known as like the city of festivals, so there's tons of cool stuff going on throughout the year. You'll constantly be busy. It's up to you, like how much you participate, obviously, in these kind of things, but there's something for everybody. If you're a hockey fan, sometimes I forget that I'm talking to Canadians. Because you guys are hockey fans, you'll find it cool that we're like 10-minute walk away from the arena, so you can often just like go by and like pick up some scalp tickets, a little bit into the first period, and you're good to go. Let's see. This is a big thing. In Quebec, there's a tax holiday. You can like read the chart there, but what is it? For 150K income, that represents more than 100K bonus in total after like 5 years. There's certain criteria you need to meet for this. You can look up the details online. I don't know all the details for this, but people in our office have been successful in getting this, and this is like a huge bonus and a huge incentive for getting you back to Canada, specifically in Quebec. Quebec's all about bringing people into Quebec. And one of the other advantages for people with families is daycare. I think daycare is like $7 a day is what somebody was saying, right? $7 a day. And I think this is it. All right, does anybody have questions?
How hard is it to find a family doctor?
T-shirt. I actually have not found a family doctor yet, but I haven't been looking for a family doctor either. Pierre, do you know the answer to that?
It is somewhat difficult. It's not plentiful, but it's not ridiculously hard either. You can find one if you have to look around a bit, but it's not either a big.
The people in the office that I know that don't have family doctors are because are similar boat like me. They haven't actually gone to look for one. I don't know anybody who's complaining that they haven't found one, but it is true that it's not as easy to get one. And there's these like kind of drop-in centers all over the place that are very accessible and stuff. Do you have any follow-up for that? Yeah. Yeah. Hey.
Can you talk about? I have two questions. Can you talk about Google's business decision in dropping H.264 from Chrome? And second is why is the majority of Chrome development happens in Montreal?
Okay, I'll answer the second question first because I didn't quite hear the first one. But the second was why does the majority of Chrome development happen in Montreal?
Is the majority of Chrome development happen in
No,
Montreal?
no. The Chrome development's kind of scattered all over, but I think it's primarily in Mountain View. And I think there's people working in New York, Montreal. It's an open source project, so there's actually people working, like non-Googlers working on it as well throughout the world. But yeah, it's yeah.
And first question is Google's business decision in dropping H.264.
Dropping
H.264.
Oh, man, I'm an engineer. I can't answer business questions for that. Nor would I even try to answer that question if I knew the answer. But good try. Do you want me to ask about Google China while you're up here too? Anything else?
So
there's more shirts to be had.
I have more of a general question to Google.
Yeah.
I heard somewhere that Google is encouraging people to transfer from team to team every so often. For satellite offices here in Canada, how does that work?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. It does work. So my transfer was from a different team here to a different team in Montreal, right? So once I got to Montreal, I've been happy on that team. But there's been transfers I've seen like across teams. So I just had somebody join my new team, the Chrome extension security thing, from the Chrome team, and he'd spent I think a year and a half on that project, and then kind of that project was kind of coming to a close, and he was kind of figuring out if he wanted to stay with Chrome or not, and he kind of shopped around, and he was a very talented engineer, so several groups wanted him, and we kind of tried to sell him on our projects, and at the end he decided to come and join my project. So it does happen, people do transfer, but you're for the most part you're kind of like limited to the projects that are there. So if you're happy with one of the projects there, you kind of follow the same guidelines that other offices do, which is you should. I don't think this stuff's kind of like written down, but it's like generally you should spend like a year and a half or something on a project, year and a half to two before you should transfer. But it happens in small offices as well. And if you're interested in a new project, like the thing I came up with, it's kind of related to a focus area that we have already. So if you can kind of show a value for the project, you can. There are cases. There's actually 2 or 3 cases that are going through right now where we're creating new teams and shuffling people around and hiring new people because of people's initiative to say, I think this is a good value, and build a prototype and show it to somebody and have somebody say, yeah, that is a good idea. Create a new team, hire new people, and that just kind of creates more diversity and more opportunities for people that are there. But you will have, there's just way more teams in Mountain View to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think my question was kind of stolen already, but along the same lines, you had mentioned earlier on that you switched ladders when you first came in, and your colleague had mentioned that he came in thinking, oh, I'm the search expert, so that's what I'm going to be working on. So is that like a typical entry into Google, is that you come in with, you know, your own expectations as to why you're going to provide value, and then Google decides, you know, we want you over somewhere else?
Well, I can't say what the typical case is. I can tell you like my experience, and you know, I was kind of a generalist. You know, I wasn't sure what I was interested in. I did a lot of system administrative type work. You know, I set up labs and environments and did like you know, managed environments and more like planning and designing of large systems, right? And I've done a lot of programming too at that point. So it's like I kind of liked it all, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And I talked to a friend inside of Google, and he's like, you know, these guys are cool, and I think they kind of, you know, they seem to be like a jack of all trades kind of group, this SRE group. So I applied through there, and you know, I asked him, I said, you know, I'm not sure that this is what I want to do. Like, it'd be great to work on Gmail or something, for example. And he's like, well, you start here, and like you can, it seems to be like a jack of all trades thing. You can kind of see where you fit in, and that's what happened. You know, I got in, I started, you know, doing what I was supposed to do, and then I kind of had a natural fit, and I started doing more of the engineering work, and so kind of started doing more like 20% work with these other kind of teams that felt like more of a fit, and then I kind of made my, you know, my decision saying, you know, I enjoy this work, but I've been doing this other work for like a year as well, and that's what I want to try next, and that worked out. And I'm not sure if that answers your question, because I can't tell you if that's a typical story. I know that happened with me, kind of. Mine's a little bit different than Alex, because I didn't come in with like, I am the search guy, or I am this guy. I was just like, I don't know what I am. Like, can Google tell me what I am? You know. And that position felt like a good fit. And then after that, I kind of within the company I found like where I fit after that. And I didn't say this at the beginning, but I came to Google like kind of straight out of university, so I had work experience through co-ops, as well as like I had, you know, co-op turned into a real job at the university, but I didn't work outside of out of the university before I came to Google, so it's more of a blank slate.
So I wanted to chime in too, since it connects to what I had said earlier. My full background before I came to Google was the first company I did a CAD CAM system for embroidery, which might sound unique, but anyway, I got a lot of computational geometry patents out of that first job. Then I worked at Waterloo Maple building software for doing mathematics, symbolic algebra on computers. Then I worked at a startup where we built a real-time Java engine that could schedule Java components that play back media in real time, where I wrote like a compiler backend and a thing that loaded the resulting ASM into the real-time extension on Salaries. And then I worked at the database startup. So, you know, more what I was saying about coming into Google was I just assumed that one of the reasons that I might join Google, given my background working on text search, was to do text search stuff, but it wasn't that I had a preconceived notion that that was what I had to do. It is the case, whatever office you go to, that they will look at your background and try to match you with a high priority project that matches your background, but that won't necessarily match you with what you're expecting to work on coming in. But then, as with my colleagues' experience here, if you decide that you're not working on what you really want to work on, it's so easy to change what you're doing once you're inside. That my typical recommendation to people who are worried about this is get started, see if you like it. If you're really unhappy with where you wound up, it's very easy to transfer internally. And there's so many projects going on internally that aren't launched that you know, it's very likely that you'll get into the company, find out about all the things we're doing that you never imagined Google was working on, and think, oh, I really want to work on that. Is that ever cool? And so you could pick something that you currently don't even know exists, or somebody could pick that for you. And so lots of people come and say, well, I'd like to pick what I work on at Google before I get there. And it's like, well, I can't really tell you what we're working on. And, you know, all I can do is put you on something that's secret that you don't know about that might be the most exciting thing ever to you. And then when you get here, if you don't like it, you can change. If we didn't do that, then we would never be able to staff all the work that's being done that has not seen the light of day yet. So we do have to have some flexibility in getting people allocated to jobs.
I find like when I interviewed at Google, there was like a bunch of this, it's a secret project or whatever, and here's kind of the category it's in. But like, can't you just sign an NDA and then tell me about what the position is? Because that tends to be what other companies tend to do, from my experience.
Well, I'll try to make that recommendation internally. This is certainly a pain point for applicants. But no, the short answer is right now, no, we can't.
Go ahead.
if you're at Google and you want to transfer internally, is that like a full interview process you have to go through again, or how
No,
does it
actually, if you're switching like teams within the same job ladder, like if you're a software engineer and you want to be a software engineer on another team, it's not a formal interview process. At least not that I know of. Like you interview with the team really and people. It's more of like a people fit kind of thing. Yeah. I actually switched teams and I didn't end up doing a formal interview as well. I kind of did this. I'll come to your meetings, give me work that you give to anybody else on your team, and in my 20% time, I will like show you that I can do that. And at the end, they're like, yeah, this guy, although he didn't go through the SWE interview process, he's a software engineer to us, so you can, it's Google. Like things are flexible, and there's not. Although there's like, even in my process, there was still like nothing really written down. It was a case by case kind of basis. So if you take initiative, you can kind of make anything happen. Go ahead.
In terms of switching the team, is there a requirement that you have to stay in a team for a certain period of time before you can switch?
Why do you have to? I'm not sure that you have to. It's just kind of like, I don't know, maybe Alex can speak to more about like the timing you spend on a team. He is a manager after all. An engineering manager, sorry.
So normally when I'm talking to people about potential transfers, I'm always trying to match their desire to transfer with where they are in their career path. So typically as you work on the same team, quarter over quarter, your performance goes up and up and up as you accumulate more knowledge and more skills on the team that you're on. And that ultimately, culminates in a promotion. So if you're 3 months away from a likely promotion, it's probably not a good time to transfer geographies and be on a whole new team, learning, whole new systems and starting again. Whereas if you wait, 4 months, get the promotion and then transfer, then you can match up your learning curve with being at the bottom of your new level as well. So the year and a half guideline helps make sure that you achieve worthy career goals in your current project before you transfer. Now, there's no fixed rule. I've had engineers start for me in November of one year and transfer to a new team in January of the following year. So less than 3 months later, be doing something completely different. And that's fine. It's all up to the manager and the individual person's situation to bend the rules. As my colleague said, if you take the initiative, you can make anything happen. But at the same time, as a manager who's looking to optimize everybody's career progress and make sure they achieve as much as possible at Google, I want to make sure that they make their decisions with their eyes open and don't set themselves up for starting again, on a whole new project when they're on the verge of a career event on their current project. So for me, that's more what the guidelines are about.
3 questions. I'm guessing they're all related to the same thing.
Is it okay to transfer between campuses as well, or like there's a policy you can't transfer between campuses?
Well, I did exactly that. I did a geolocation transfer. I was in this office and I transferred to the Montreal office. So it's first about transferring teams. I transferred to that team, which happened to have like a component here. So it was like the split between Mountain View and Montreal. And then I transferred locations. And the location thing, from my experience at least, it was just like checking boxes and stuff because the team existed here and there. So it was like a paperwork kind of thing. There was no real interview process or anything like that. Sorry? Well, it's not like you pick your team. You kind of have to. In my experience, again, I shopped around. I looked at the teams that were in Montreal. Like, I want to go to Montreal. What teams are there? What team looks interesting to me? And I proved myself to that team. I kind of, although it wasn't a formal interview process, I had to show them that there's a reason that they would want me. And once, I convinced them of that, the rest of it was pretty straightforward. So I'd imagine that like other scenarios are going to be similar. You go in the back, yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, Alex, do you have comments on that?
So there's no maximum amount of time you can be on a given team, but I've had some situations where somebody's been on the same team for a long time and their career is no longer progressing. In stuff, and that'll help get your career to the next level. What do you think about that? Some people are more ambitious than others, and they take that advice, and it usually has the desired effect. Other people really like what they're doing, and they stay where they are, because they're happy with where they are in their career, and that's fine too. So there's no time limit. I certainly have seen people who've been on the same team for 4 or 5 years, and they're totally happy with that, and happy with where they're at. I do think that depending on the specific individual and the specific team situation, there are times when changing teams just spurs a whole bunch of new growth. Like I find whenever you change what you're working on, there's always a honeymoon period with the new technology where it's like, everything is perfect here. I love it. I'm learning new stuff every day. I'm meeting new people. I'm building new cool things. And, the transfer between teams can create that experience again and be a real supercharge on people's growth. So I do recommend it to people, but it's not required by any means.
All right, I think time's running out, so there's like 2 people who have questions I saw. So you can go first, and then, all right.
Could you characterize more what it's like to work in a remote office like Montreal? For example, do you spend more time communicating with the main office? Because I guess other teams.
All right, so my specific case, my team, the Antimalware team, is split between Mountain View and Montreal. And we're like a 3-hour time difference, right? So we do video conference with them as needed. We have like a weekly meeting, which is a video conference. And it's nice, it's like big nice screens, and it's very immediate. It's not like the old video conference days, right? And we actually have like video conferencing at the desktop as well. So, Gmail, chat, video kind of stuff, we can do all that. And we do communicate as necessary, and actually our team communicates a lot. And on top of that, I make like a trip to Mountain View. Actually, most people on our team do like once a quarter. So once every 4 months, I come down and like do like a, interact with them and like go out and kind of, it's still nice to have that like FaceTime with the people. So we do communicate a lot with the people in Mountain View. And they come up too from time to time as well.
Do you feel more remote working at Montreal because you worked here first?
Right, I worked here. So this is a funny story. So our team right now is in Crittenden, which is like on the other side of this campus. So we have meetings with other Googlers in Mountain View on this side of campus. And we will not come to this side of campus. Instead, we'll have a video conference with them. So, so the guys here, like we were joking about it today, that we're here seeing our team, and it's great. But then we're like interacting with other Googlers by video conference, and they're like, they're in the room down here, yeah. And that happens a lot. It's like a time saver, right? So you can get by a lot with like modern technology, video conferencing and talking. So I don't feel like I'm missing out. At least on our team, we're like very, very involved, and we make an effort to kind of like reach out, and we try to like take ownership of things, right? So in Canada, we try to take ownership of specific components so that we can work together and then kind of communicate back with the people in Mountain View. And when we need to, like it's phone calls and video conferencing, it's all very interactive. There's this guy I promised, and then how about that guy? Sorry.
I think this goes back to Alex, actually. You had mentioned earlier that because of the size of Google, billion-dollar ideas are the ones that they're looking for to grow. Well, there must be a lot of ideas that don't meet that threshold, and I'm wondering what happens to those? Do they get spun off somehow, or what happens to what happens? Is there an island of lost billion-dollar ideas?
Go ahead, man.
So the question is there an island of lost ideas for ideas that don't meet the sort of goals of being big enough for Google? So in my experience, one of 3 things happens to those ideas. They either never get started because they don't look like they're going to be big enough, or they do get started by people putting their 20% time into them, even though they'll never be the big projects that they could be, or that that we aspire to have. Or you figure out a way to convince people that although your idea is not 100 million person or $1 billion idea today, that it is the kernel of something that will lead to that kind of big impact down the road. So we're willing to invest in things that are going to take 3, 4, 5, 10 years to actually come to fruition if we know that there's a path by which it can become huge. So I've seen us do that with products, and it takes a long time to see those things actually snowball. But if it's an idea that like literally will never meet the bar, then the only way it can really get done is in people's 20% time. And I mean, my inclination as a Google manager would be normally to say, why don't we look for a way to generalize your idea so that it is more applicable, so that it is sort of big enough to gather people's attention. So definitely, I mean, I actually think this is a challenge for us internally. People can get frustrated trying to think of ideas that have the right level of impact to actually get that buy-in, right? You can still do them in your 20% time, but it's a high bar.
You said it like $1 billion idea, and I think you kind of said that in your questions. Like, I've heard time and time again that it's like, build a product that people use and we'll figure out the rest kind of later. Right?
So
like,
that's why I tried to say also 100 million users. Like, it's not just necessarily about dollars. It's about usage as well. So you could do an idea that you had no idea how it was ever going to make money, but if you were sure that, everybody in North America was going to use it, that would be big enough regardless of the revenue model. The revenue would follow from having that kind of usage in some way.
Okay, there's one more question, and then we'll go to the next.
The size of...
And we'll be around after, so you can ask us questions after too.
Just curious about the size of the groups, and like for each manager, is there bigger teams, or how does that vary across the company? Or?
I can speak about Montreal again in general. Like the size of a team just kind of grows organically, right? Like at least the teams in Montreal. We started with one person on the Antimalware team in Montreal. The work and scope got larger, so we asked for more. Those two people couldn't, created more projects and more ideas, and now we're like at 5 on that sub team, growing another smaller team of like 2 or 3 people. So in our case in Montreal, the size of the team kind of grew organically. You can ask me or Alex probably about that like after. Okay, thanks.